Welcome to the 5th episode of Vies 2024 Recaps from Reality TV Warriors. My name is Michael Holmstone, and joining me as always are the Canadian who likes being tied up in public and beaten with a stick, Logan Saunders.
Good afternoon.
A David Bindley special, that one. And the guy who knows it doesn't matter what he picks us, it's always crooked, David Bindley.
Good morning.
Good morning. We are on a timer this week because we have given Fuzzy the Peter Yankers gamble of whether we will preamble for more or less than 15 minutes. We've no idea whether she's going to take it or not. But now we have to decide what we think is going to happen so that we can inevitably fuck her with the bingo card if she picks it.
Well, there's no traders this week.
Well, the straight is US. We get to relish in Dan's downfall.
Who?
Who indeed, but I believe I described his takedown as a nuclear-level event.
Mm-hmm.
It was a delightful piece of television and thoroughly deserved. It was hilarious.
Wonderful.
Apparently he was really quiet during the game, which does not work for Traders or Mafia. That's usually how you get banished early, is if you don't say much.
Yeah, because he basically tried to play the same game he did in Big Brother, which is stay quiet at the start and then kick ass at the end. Only he was way too suspiciously quiet at the start of the game and had Janelle in there who's played with him in Big Brother before and called him out as doing the exact same thing again and again and again. And that was pretty much what brought him down in the end.
Excellent.
Also very interesting that all of the votes in the last episode went to traitors. There's 3 traitors in the game and they were the only people who got votes.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Very rare that happens. As we mentioned last week as well, with the bingo card, we knew Fuzzy hadn't got the banner. Pretty sure she's going to get the banner this week. I suspect I know which one she's going to go for, and I'm going for the obvious banner this week. It is obviously going to be Jeroen screaming at Rosario in the in the square. Logan, I don't think has seen this, which is even funnier because Logan had to skip that second challenge.
I think it happened right before I had to skip. Is that where he screams like Rosario?
Rosario, yeah.
Yeah, that's like the last bit I got to see. It's like calling a child over to answer the telephone to talk to grandma.
Yeah, so Logan doesn't know who the mole was from the original Mexico season, so we're going to do this episode as spoiler-free as we can. He hasn't seen most of the second challenge, and as a result, we're going to be skirting around the bits where the mole actually appears, or the old mole actually appears, I should say. Pretty sure Fuzzy's going to pick that as the banner. I'm going to go for the obvious one, because obviously we are heartbroken to say goodbye to Jeroen this week.
Oh.
I had a feeling. I had him as soon as I dropped him to the bottom of my suspect list. I was thinking, well, same thing happened with Justin, where as soon as I dropped him to the bottom at the start of an episode, he went home by the end of it. So
the squares that Fuzzy did get last week, though, were very impressive. There were some impressive direct hits, just not a lot of them last week. We managed to skirt it thanks to me editing up until about 2.5 hours before the episode came out. That cannot happen this week because I'm away with work on Wednesday. I have also got an update I know everyone's been waiting for because something that I did mean to mention a few weeks ago is the fact that sadly the dogson has had a sorely paw. He wasn't well over Christmas. He had a massive cut on his paw because he was a little bit rambunctious. We got some very miserable photos of him wearing a cone because obviously he wasn't allowed out and he was very sad. I was at Mum and Dad's on Sunday, heard his dad across the roundabout near Mum and Dad's house, and he sprinted for me. It's the first time he's seen me in about 6 months, and he's a very, very good boy. Yeah. So, Ludo is doing well. He's the absolute best still. And I think it's fair to say that this wasn't as bad an episode as the past couple, but that's also a very low bar.
Mm-hmm.
No, I liked it more than last week. Yeah, but this first challenge... it's a continuation of, 4 awful challenges in a row?
Yeah. For the official PC Yankers gamble, previously, the 3 eliminated players successfully won a chance to return by sneaking past 3 others in a market, while the other 4 ran down the clock in search of yokers. In Merida, Babs came out on top in her Redemption Island duel, while the remaining 7 puzzled their way to a loss on a boat trip. The episode ended as Jeroen opened a box and revealed Babs' return. Can I also point out, I did write that before we actually saw that it was Babs coming back, but let's be honest, we knew.
It would have been so great if it was somebody else.
Oh, I would have laughed so hard if it wasn't Babs, but the problem here is obviously it messes up a lot of things for us, because it messes up the pool in that I then have to go, well, actually, in the rules I have written this, but also it shouldn't be used 4 weeks in. And on top of that, it does kind of mess up first suspicions. Nobody looks good on First Suspicions this week because I have to literally add basically 10 points to everyone's scores because of Babs coming back. There's only 2 people in the entire thing, one of whom is you, who didn't put Babs in last.
Oh God, is Logan winning?
No, Logan is not winning. Spoilers for the end of the episode, Logan is still one of the bottom 3.
Of course.
Because he put Rian in 10th and Babs in 9th. Logan is the only person, I believe, with still both of his bottom 2. Because no one else is that silly.
Well, Logan's used to being the bottom.
Jesus.
So Rik says that by picking a key, Jeroen sealed Jip, Justin, and Babs' fates. The big question is how everyone else will react to someone coming back and knowing potentially more upon their return, including who the mole isn't. Jeroen opens the lilac box, as we saw last week, and reveals Babs, the chaos option, is returning to the game. They'd all realise that someone was in it, which is also hilarious, and they leave without saying goodbye to Jip and Justin.
They remain locked in the box and just have to tap on it.
Do you think that Jip and Justin were actually in those boxes?
We heard tapping. Would they add in that sound effect? Maybe.
I was thinking about this yesterday when I was driving. Like, it wouldn't make any sense for them to put Jip and Justin in the boxes knowing that the key wasn't going to open it. You just pull them to one side and go, listen, you guys, they haven't picked your key. You are going home. And then not tell Babs that and just sneak her into a box. There's no way that they put Jip and Justin in those boxes, I don't think.
If they were in those boxes, it'd be like that episode of The Simpsons where Krusty the Clown tries to make his comeback on TV and his little door doesn't open and he doesn't get to come back on TV for another 5 years.
Did they know it was a person when they opened it, or
They were talking about it being someone inside the box.
yeah?
So
'Cause
they'd sort of worked out that it was going to be a returning twist, I think.
yeah, because I remember Fon saying, who is it? And I'm pretty sure they weren't actually told.
No, they weren't told. The line from Rik last week, I believe, was you get to keep whatever's in the box.
Yeah,
But they'd realised that, it was people-sized, it was probably going to be a person.
yeah,
And it wasn't going to be a traitor situation where they just introduce someone 5 weeks into the show and go, you know what, they might also be a mole. You might have 2 moles this season.
Corbin Burnson would go along with that theory.
Corbin Benson would go along with any theory.
So the episode title is Return. Babs tells everyone how she ended up returning, and she says she'll be a good person to be in a bunch with, but tells us that she will lie about what Jip and Justin told her just to cause a bit of confusion.
Oh, it's a Chris Underwood situation.
And it's now day 9 in Merida. Rik meets them and tells them that they're keeping it simple today. They're keeping it simple today. This time they can tell him how much they want to earn, and if it's correct, they will earn it for the pot. They need to make 4 pairs, and 1 pair needs to come with him immediately. Babs hijacks Rosario immediately, leaving Jeroen to go with his second choice, which is Fons. Anna and Rian and Case and Tuska are the other pairs, and Jeroen again takes the lead and volunteers him and Fons to come with Rik.
Should we be looking at Rosario a bit more as a potential mole, given that he did lose 3K single-handedly and Babs was very, very quick to team up with him?
I was going to get into this at the end because there was a theory that I was told on Instagram last night, which I am taking with a dead sea worth of salt, that Rosario is the mole.
Mm.
In that he sent 2 questions to Yit, and obviously you lost 3K this week. If he is the mole, then it's a really boring option because, yet again, it's another young male player as the mole for the 4th time. In 5 seasons, we'd have a male mole. He would also be yet another mole under the age of 40, which, outside of Renee, who was the last over 40 mole?
Jeroen?
Meryl?
Jeroen was Jeroen?
He looked like he was 60, but
Was Jeroen over 40?
he had to be. His beard was completely grey.
I don't count him as a mole anyway, so in terms of the actual regular series, the last over 40s mole outside of Renee was like ages ago. Genuinely ages ago. Go back to Sri Lanka, I think.
Meryl was 40.
Yeah, she's not a mole.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're going back a fair way to find a mole who is not under the age of 40 again. But he would just be a really boring option because he's just not that good telly, I would say.
Well, he blurts out random things that always make the episode. His favorite color is purple.
The other part of the theory that I did see is that it would explain why he had his hair in braids in episode 1 and then not in braids after that. So he could put the wig on. He's not top of my list by any stretch of the imagination. He would be a very boring choice as a mole.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to start looking at him a bit more because of this episode. Just something that can counter the, it's definitely Anna.
Oh, I have another theory on who it might be if it isn't Anna. But we'll get to that later. So Rik then gives Jeroen and Fons a hint, which is 17 pieces, 19 pieces, 21 pieces, and 38 pieces. And the other 6 are going for a horse-drawn carriage ride. Along the way, they will find combinations of colours and amounts attached to lampposts. When they reunite with Jeroen and Fons later, they should be able to argue about what the right amount they can earn is. And of course, what is the right amount?
2008.
Should we just, be quiet and let you rant for 5 minutes?
I've said all I need to say. I screenshotted the corner of the screen when that came up and just basically said, what the ever-living fuck?
At least it ended in an even number.
Yeah, it ended in an even number that they still can't achieve. The maximum for the season is 67,641 euros. That's bullshit, Malushka.
And Rian got to sit in a carriage the whole time. So I'm glad, I was really worried that she would have to be on her feet and do something this week. But no, she got to sit in the carriage. And she wasn't even using the walkie-talkie. I believe it was Anna who held the walkie-talkie the whole time.
Yeah, she got to be Abby Marianne.
What even was the point of the walkie-talkies? That's the thing. There was no point to them in that challenge.
Because they still got to confer at the end with all of them, with everything they had written down.
Yeah. I think the logic basically was add together all the numbers that are associated with each colour, multiply it by the 17, 19, 21, or 38, and you'd get 2008 in the end. But still, it's just nonsense. This challenge was not just boring, but it was boring and impossible to understand. It's a lethal combination.
Well, I wrote down my notes. It's not a very good challenge if the full explanation for it doesn't happen until the challenge is over.
Yeah.
I don't even think the full explanation happened, though.
Oh, right, that's right. They didn't even say to multiply. They just said, you would have gotten 2008 between the numbers you got and then the 4... the colored numbers that Jeroen and Fons had. Yeah, it didn't even say multiply it by whichever to get 2008. So no, you're right. We didn't even get an explanation to the challenge. It was just, if you would have gotten 2008 if you did these first couple steps, all you had to do was figure out this third step, which you will never know about, and neither will the audience. You guys are dumb for not knowing that.
Yeah, I just understood it as, you work out which 4 colors those numbers were, and then you just added the signs for those colors only, and that was it. But even then, it's kind of impressive that they managed to take one of the dullest tasks from one of the dullest Amazing Race seasons ever and make it even more boring.
It just didn't make any sense.
Was there a scenario where they could have won this challenge? I'm trying to think.
The thing is, it requires the mole to definitely not be Fons or Jeroen, and obviously we know half of that. The mole definitely wasn't. But it also relies on the person in the carriage with the mole checking their answers. That's the only way around it, is to basically figure out a way to sideline the mole.
And even then, you've got to hope nobody else is pretending to sabotage in this challenge.
Yeah, one wrong number, and then you go from having about a 2 or a 3% success rate to this challenge down to 0.
Yeah.
0.
Yeah, this was an impossible challenge, but also I do understand why 2008 was the answer. It was then hinting at the old mole coming back from the 2008 season. But also, I do have to say it again, they should never have a maximum on a challenge that is not fulfillable in the money if they're insisting upon having a treasure and mole money in the season. Because all that would have happened is Rik would have gone, yeah, the answer was 2008, but we'll give you 2010 because that's all we can fulfill, which is nonsense.
And the 2008 number, they would have to come up with out of a possibility of a few potential numbers to complete the challenge.
Yeah.
And that's not a number that's super obvious, even if you're well-versed in VIDM, especially the contestants.
It's also worth pointing out that they didn't get a single flag number correct either. They managed to get all of the colours correct, but mix up the numbers on them.
And of course, the only highlight for this challenge is just Jeroen and his hat running around like a maniac, counting all of the flags.
And also Tuska calling Case an old bastard of mine.
Yes, I did write down that quote too. I was thinking, well, can you narrow it down a bit for this season as to who you're referring to?
I did appreciate when they were arguing about, what the actual answer was. Somebody just shouts out, "No, because that's not an amount of money."
Oh, and then with Anna's notes, Jeroen had the brilliant quote of saying it looked like it was notes for the next nuclear bomb. It looked like the Manhattan Project.
I mean, we know that Jeroen goes in this episode. He had a good final episode. He had a very funny final episode.
I was surprised that after how the first episode played out, that Jeroen would be the biggest character in the next 4 subsequent episodes, with just with how excitable he would get, while no one else was really excited at all.
Yeah, Bindles and I were discussing earlier whether he ascends to the tier of a Harmstone Favo, and I think he has to, under the Sinan Chan rule of this guy is just unintentionally hilarious at every opportunity. So, yeah, it's a huge loss for the season. If you were going to have one person left on your team this season, I was hoping it was going to be your own, to be honest, Saunders.
Yeah.
Looks like it's going to be Hans. Hey.
So, yeah, Rik comes back, tells them that 17 referred to yellow, 19 to blue, 21 to orange, and 38 to green. If they'd added everything up, they would have got 2008. As it is, they got nothing for the pot.
And there's a reference to Tusk's wedding.
Yeah, do you know the story of Tuska's wedding?
No.
She... Let me get it
Had
up.
a wedding?
She had a wedding, yeah. Marika was talking about it on Discord yesterday.
So, Tuska's husband, his brother married Susan from Hong Kong, Philippines.
Jeez, how small is this country?
12 people. So, basically, Susan and Tuska are sisters-in-law, I think. It's confusing. But Susan's husband is no longer with us, so maybe not sisters-in-law anymore. I don't know.
They're ex-sisters-in-law now, technically. But yeah, there is a mole connection anyway with Tuska.
So, that's probably who answered Susan as their favourite mole when that test question came up.
So they return to the hotel for a debrief over lunch, and it seems that the lack of money that they earned in the challenge also extends to the lack of plates that they're provided.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Why do they all have like the takeaway containers?
You'd have thought that they would have given them a proper table and some plates, for goodness sake.
I was surprised. I was thinking it's just like they're about to check out of a hotel, and the staff say, "Well, you can, wait in that seating area by the bar there until your bus comes."
The other funny thing about the 2008 maximum that I do need to mention is I had a lot of messages off people going, "Oh, I bet you loved that maximum on the first challenge." I'm like, of course I didn't. What the ever-living fuck are they doing? But I just love that I've just got this reputation now of being the one person who goes, what the ever-living fuck are they doing as soon as they do a wonky maximum. So they then head to a nearby square where they find their next assignment, which Logan knows nothing about: individual phones under umbrellas and mole-shaped pinatas hanging. Rik rings them and tells them they can earn a lot of money or lose a lot of money in this challenge. 38,640 euros are at stake, and never before in Vies de Mol has so much money been at stake. And of course, the footnote to this is, obviously it's going to be impossible for them to earn 38,640 euros, because there will be a twist.
It's not even true, though, because in the Japan Karaoke Challenge, I believe they could have earned a lot more.
That is a good point. It's a €1 million challenge, that one, and they do seem to have forgotten about that.
Yeah.
I genuinely still, it's 2-3 years since we did the Japan Historians at this point. I wonder what their theoretical maximum was for that challenge, because I think we said 3,000.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they pitched it any higher than that.
I don't know. There's quite a few challenges that basically have unlimited prizes, like the Nationality Challenge in El Salvador and a couple of other ones. There's the Pot Doubler Challenge in Oregon, which basically was, 60,000, whatever it was. The highest set value that I could find was 27,500, and that was the very first challenge of the first celebrity season. but I couldn't find anything that was actually like a set amount anywhere near 38,640. But even then, there's so many exceptions to the rule that you can't really claim this is the biggest prize ever.
Didn't they earn a lot in that first Portugal challenge?
I think it was no, that might have been 44,000 because I think from memory it was 2,000 a person, 11 people, and then you had a chance to double it. So yeah, that would have been 44,000.
At risk of crossing the streams and doing an amazing race-related rant here, are we actually fact-checking production here?
Yes. Hang on.
This feels like a very Amazing Race podcast thing to do. We don't usually do this on WIDM of going, actually, guys.
Yeah, that's okay. Mexico invented democracy.
Fuck off. Did I tell you I had someone argue with me last week, I think it was, Son, about Switzerland inventing democracy?
That came up again?
Yeah, this is on the other Discord server that we chat about offline. Someone did try and go, well, actually, yeah, you could argue for it. And I'm like, no, you can't. It's bullshit. Greece literally exists. And calm.
I have a question about this challenge. Why did Rik have to introduce the challenge over the phone?
Because he couldn't be asked turning up, as always.
Okay.
Have you not noticed how little Rik appears in these episodes now?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm surprised we didn't get a reaction shot for the 38,000. A couple of people just sort of looked vaguely disinterested, but we didn't really get, the sort of, oh, that's a lot of money sort of shot that you would expect from, people on a game show.
It's one step above Rik sitting in a hotel room eating ice cream or singing a song about empanadas at this point.
Yeah. Well, maybe he was in the hotel, but he had one of those like takeaway containers.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I can't leave my food. It doesn't travel.
Just singing a song about how 3 taquitos makes a taco.
So they will receive phone calls telling them which pinatas to smash, and the correct pinatas contain information on the location of the money in the form of parts of a map. Each incorrect pinata smashed costs them €250 from the pot, and they have 45 minutes, but it will take 15 minutes to get to the location, so in 30 minutes' time, the treasurer and one other person may get on a Mahari to the destination of their choice. Tuska then gets the first call, which is hinting at a big fan of vies which is Malota, and Anna gets a call for Jeroen. The correct pinatas can be identified by putting words around the word mole. Tuska's returns to the fans, Malota, so she is looking for loot. Jeroen's is the study of fruit, which is pomology, presumably very similar in Dutch.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I had to look it up. Yeah, I looked it up. I'm presuming it's very similar in Dutch, but pomology is the answer that Jeroen was looking for. Babs then gets the avocado sauce coming from Mexico, which is guacamole. Each open pinata gives a portion of the route leading to the location where €38,640 is waiting in €5 notes. 7,728 of them, to be precise.
They couldn't even come up with an actual number of notes.
Yeah, I was thinking that. They must have had a lot of these €5 notes, because obviously they knew what was going to happen. They knew they were going to send the old mole in, and that person would then start shredding. I hated every fibre of this challenge as soon as we get to this point of the episode, which is the bit that Logan hasn't seen yet. We're obviously at the point where Jeroen screams for Rosario, which is delightful. And Fuzzy even pointed out that actually, if you keep watching that split-second moment, you do see that the guy sitting on a bench behind Jeroen takes his headphones off and looks at Jeroen just being like, what the actual fuck are you screaming about? The old mole from Mexico then appears. They get access to the money room and start shredding the notes. And I believe the significance of the €38,640 is it is the exact amount that the mole kept from the pot in that season.
It's not actually, because I, went and double checked that. So I don't know, how specific I can get with Logan, but the final pot was about 20,000 that season, out of a possible 100,900.
Jesus.
Yeah, so they should have had about 80,500, so they weren't even halfway there. So it's just a completely random number, really.
Could the argument be potentially that it was the money that the mole specifically themselves kept out of the pot? Not that I'm defending them in the slightest, but it seems like an incredibly specific number.
I mean, possibly, but I don't know how you would calculate that considering the way some of the challenges in that season were structured.
Yeah, I don't know. I think later in this challenge, they say the reason that the mole shredded exactly 38,000 euros is because that's the amount that they kept out of the pot.
Yeah.
I love how Logan's sitting here just being like, this is brand new information to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although the little intro scene where they show the mole calling the current mole and, learning that they left a key under the doormat. I feel like that's sort of like a perfect encapsulation of how the show has dumbed itself down over the years.
That the old mole didn't even have to do anything challenging.
Yeah. So we've gone from, legitimate challenges to, kids' board games and whatever to, the key's under the doormat. Just, let yourself in.
The main issue that I have with this challenge is that if you're going to offer a prize like 38,640 euros, even if you're not intending on actually giving it out, it should be possible to earn that entire amount.
Yeah.
If the old mole appears 5 minutes into this challenge or whatever it is, gets access to the villa where the money's hiding, and then just starts ripping stuff up and shredding it and all that, that's bullshit. Just be honest about not wanting to give these people 38,640 euros.
Mm.
Stop clouding it in we might do this, because it's bullshit. You're never going to actually offer that money.
Yeah.
Just be honest.
You're never going to get this.
Yeah, there's no reason this couldn't have just been, 5,001 euro notes. Well, except for the, they don't have €1 notes, but they could make some.
Yeah, I mean, this season would be greatly improved if they just added in a €1 note, but that's another argument. They absolutely should have had a possible way to do 38,640 euros, regardless of the new mole helping the old mole get into the villa or whatever it was. If it takes 15 minutes to travel from the square to that villa, the old mole should not have been anywhere near that villa in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, even if they'd had to, set it up so they had the old mole at the plaza when the challenge started, and then he or she had to go to the villa during the time limit from there. So they basically didn't get there for the first 15 minutes. I think that would have worked. And then, you wouldn't have had the reveal at the end. But I don't think the rest of this challenge was worth that reveal.
The other idea would be have the old mole competing against these new contestants and have the new mole helping the old mole work out where the villa is first. Because it's all well and good them having access to the villa and being able to shred all this money.
Yeah.
But it felt cheap to let them do it straight away. That sort of a thing should absolutely be earned.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, flip it on its head, let them get to the villa in time, fudge the time or whatever, and let the old mole offer them a dilemma. Thank you, Saunders. Let the old mole go, well, there's 38,640 euros in this room. Do you want to play me to try and earn some of it? Because that would have felt less cheap.
There was no reason for the treasurer to go anyway.
No. As it stands, this is just a really cheap way to go, well, we offered you 38,640 euros. It wasn't possible to earn it, but we offered it, and aren't we good guys for doing that? No, you're just cheap. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What was the realistic amount they could have earned?
640 euros.
What?
Because the old mole was left unattended in that villa for 45 minutes and shredded 38,000 worth of €5 notes. If they'd got there early enough, then maybe they could have got a couple of grand out of it, but I reckon easily halfway through this challenge there was less than 10,000 euros in that room.
Oh yeah, they had the old mole call the plaza and stall for time by asking the new mole how much time was left.
Yeah.
Did we hear the mole say yes when the mole called to ask about the time limit?
I don't think so. I mean, there was a subtitle that said yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think we actually heard the real new mole's voice.
Okay.
I think there's a trick to that somewhere,
Okay.
being honest. So the map's not even complete with 15 minutes left, and Fons suggests just breaking all of the pinatas to get the card pieces and the 38,640 euros, not realising that obviously they're never going to offer that money. And they don't even leave until 12 and a half minutes are left on the clock, and the time runs out, and it's obviously going to cost them a fortune. Rik then meets Babs and Fons scornfully at the villa, and they see these shredded notes. He also confirms that the former mole was there to destroy the notes to help the new mole. The amount that they destroyed was what they kept from the pot in 2008, allegedly. And they also broke 7 wrong pinatas for a total of minus €1,750 of 38,640 for the challenge. And Babs also puts the idea out there that the old mole rang the new one for updates on their progress.
Seems like Babs is fairly certain as to who the mole is right now.
Yeah. Do you think it would ruin the season if Babs comes back in episode 5 and then wins?
It wouldn't help the season.
No. And I think the season's on life support as it is.
Yeah, I think it would genuinely be a Jeroen-sized asterisk to the season if someone can miss 4 of the episodes nearly and then just come back and storm it. It wouldn't feel as earned. Because obviously Babs has then potentially got all the information from Jip and Justin to go, well, it's not this person, it's not this person, it's not this person.
That's like any of the major competitive reality shows when they bring back a player after being eliminated. It's, well, if they win, it's going to be an asterisk no matter what. So you're thinking, why do that twist in the first place?
Yeah.
Because it's never going to be a way where somebody comes back after being eliminated, wins the game, and then everyone is happy about it. That's just never going to happen.
Yeah. There's one season where they eliminated a player and then they won their way back in the next challenge. And then sort of when that player made it to the second last episode or something, they came up with an excuse to make it a final 4. Just so when you get to the final 3, you don't think, okay, that's not the player, that's not the mole. One of these 2 other people is the mole. Like, they basically had to ensure there was an extra person there just so that wouldn't happen. And I wonder whether they're thinking about doing that again this season.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would be extremely unfair potentially at final 3. It's like, well, I got eliminated picking player 1 instead of player 2 as the mole, so I know it has to be player 2.
We've got 3 executions left this season before the final, potentially. They're going to have a final 4, aren't they?
It's funny because Mole Australia had a twist bringing a player back after elimination, and
twice.
Yeah, twice in the same season, and that guy didn't even win.
I don't necessarily mind bringing people back the very next challenge. I mind bringing people back after a week of downtime with 2 other people who've already been executed who can tell that person who they suspected.
Yeah, because I was about to say in, was it WIDM Scotland, it was that person was eliminated the same round and then came back.
Yeah. It's happened a few times in early WIDM that they do that, but it's almost immediately they bring them back.
Yeah. And I was about to say with WIDM, the first celebrity WIDM season, they brought the guy back right away after another person was medically evacuated.
And like, I don't mind if they do that sort of twist the way België does it, where it's, you've got the red screen, but then you can play this challenge to win an exemption, and if you win an exemption, the next worst performer goes home. Like, I don't mind if they do it that way sometimes. But, 4 episodes later is ridiculous.
The Germany consequence to that is that when Germany's reboot did that idea of a twist, they said, oh yeah, if you come back, then the next worst person's going to go, but we're not going to tell you who that is until the next morning, and they're literally going to get escorted from the next challenge by quad bike.
Amazing.
So they then made them wait until the very next morning, and then it was like, oh yeah, before we start doing this challenge, which is nonsense, obviously, here's a quad bike to take one of you away, bye.
Has a player ever skipped out on 3 full episodes of The Mole before in any franchise? Because usually every returning player twist I can think of, it's usually either the same episode or the very next one they come back.
I can't think of one.
No, the WIDM season in Argentina, which is one of the Carol seasons, they opened the season by basically forcing them to pick 2 people to sit out for a couple of episodes, and then they don't come back until the end of episode 3. And then in episode 3, they have a chance to win an exemption, but that's probably the only one I can think of.
But not one where a player gets eliminated and is a genuinely eliminated player for multiple episodes.
No, and like, you can absolutely rule Babs out here, because there is no way that they are going to, as I said last week, leave the mole's return up to chance. They're not going to keep the mole out of the game for potentially 3 episodes. And they're also probably not going to be allowed to rig it against Jip and Justin. So therefore, you can absolutely guarantee that Babs is not the mole at this point, I think.
And also, the test for episodes 2 and 3, if it was Babs, how would they know what to answer? How would they know, which answers were right? Like, there's no way to get any result at all in episodes 2 or 3.
I think if Babs is the mole, this show is getting a Viking funeral.
Yeah.
I think that's my ultimatum on it.
But yeah, I just thought that through too. That any person who's returned, they've never been able to compare notes with other eliminated players before coming back. That's way too much information for Babs to have. It really is the Chris Underwood situation all over again in Survivor.
Yeah, the Chris Underwood situation is a great way to describe it, because obviously, traditionally in Survivor, if you went home and there was a returning twist of some description, like the Outcast twist or whatever, you'd still probably not be able to get that much of an advantage out of it. As soon as you introduce Edge of Extinction, he's literally on an island for 30-odd days with every single person who's going to be on that jury, and he can charm them. There was no way he wasn't going to win. But it then adds an asterisk to the season of going, well, he had a bit of an unfair advantage. He got voted out super early and then got to smooze the jurors for 4 weeks. That should not necessarily be rewarded.
And then play for, 2 idols, and then win a fire making challenge and win the game.
Yeah, he came back with the opportunity to have an idol, then did fire making challenge and then won. And it's taken however many years for him to then come back and do the Challenge USA and actually get a legitimate victory on a show.
Well, though it is the challenge, so how much of it is really legitimate?
It is. I was waiting for that joke. I made a challenge joke as part of the Instagram story last week, because people have been bitching about this season as challenge and how nobody went home for about 6 episodes, I think it was. Because of the format of the season. I don't watch the challenge, and I can't sort of believe we're getting into the challenge chat here, but what I believe is that they're doing a season where everyone who's playing has not won a season before. So it's battle for a new champion, and it's split into 3 phases. The middle phase was 10 rounds of people getting nominated for elimination, and then a former challenge champion coming back and challenging them for 10 grand out of the prize pot. If the challenge champion won, they took 10 grand with them and eliminated that person. If the challenge champion didn't, that person stayed in the game. And I think it was 3 of the 10 champions won.
Wow.
So there was a solid 5 or 6 episode streak of nobody going home.
God, what terrible television. That's almost Australian.
That's almost Australian.
Yeah. It then got to the point now where in the 3rd phase, I believe they're having to eliminate the worst performer in each challenge to make up the elimination order that they need to actually do to get to the finale when they have to.
Oh.
So yeah, it's a mess, and it's hilarious seeing the reactions of the challenge fans. My one sort of input to this season on the challenge is correcting someone when they said Colleen from Mole Germany won Mole Germany. She didn't. She was the mole. She was literally found. That's the point of the show, you morons. So, it is day 10, and it's time to do it like the Mayans. They're at Yashuna, roughly 20 kilometers from Chichen Itza. Rik meets them there individually with 8 envelopes in front of him. Behind him are 9 tables, some of which contain money. However, they can swap the money out for advantages, 1, 2, or 3 yokers, or a tapito. If 3 people claim a tapito, all 3 of them will have an exemption. However, the more they risk, the more it will cost. 1 yoker is 1 envelope, 2 is 2, 3 is 3, and the tapito is 4. The envelopes by Rik contain no euros, -500, -1,000, or -3,000. And unlike the traditional Paths of Temptation, they don't see what's in each box, and they can backtrack as much as they want.
I thought production was going to be more brutal with how much money they were going to lose this challenge.
I mean, it was over half. They're now sort of half Albania levels again.
But I was expecting -3,000, -1,000, -500.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting anybody to find money either. I was expecting a solid 4,500 euros to come out of the pot from that challenge alone.
You also sort of ignoring the fact that there was a potential -24k out of the pot here. If everyone had picked -3,000, it would have dropped the pot by 24,000 euros, and they would have had to massively give them money in the next 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Do you think they for sure would have done that?
They would have had to.
They would have regretted putting the 38,000 euro challenge before this.
Yeah. If they dropped 24 grand on this one, they would have been down to what, minus 15 roughly? They would have had to give them so much money in the remaining 4 episodes they can earn money this season to make it a viable pot. It would have had to be like a guaranteed 25 grand win to actually make it worthwhile for anyone to compete. Which, to be fair, would have been hilarious.
As soon as Rick said there was a minus 3,000 envelope, I was thinking, I think production thinks they have too much money in the pot right now.
I will also say this now. If Rosario ends up being the mole and one of his sabotages is, oh, I took the 3 grand envelope, that is bullshit. That is not a sabotage. That is production-induced rigging. And I am going to come down very hard on that in 5 weeks' time if it isn't.
I should note, too, that I knew Rosario was going to have minus 3,000 because they put him at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, it's going to be a bunch of zeros, maybe minor value. And then as soon as Tuska opened up 3 Jokers, I was thinking, there's no way Rosario is going to have anything good for himself or the group inside that envelope. It's going to be that gut punch that the challenge will inevitably have. It would have been funnier, though, if it was just, minus, or what was it, 250 euros for the pot, minus 500, Tuska gets Jokers, and everyone else has 0, and that was it for the challenge.
Yeah, like, from a mole sabotage point of view, I don't think you necessarily want to cost the pot too much money here. You want to let everyone maybe get an advantage because it doesn't bother you. You want to make sure that nobody earns money in this challenge.
Yeah.
Losing money is a bonus, but I don't think the mole would necessarily go, oh, I'm going to go straight for the minus 3 grand because, fuck you guys.
Yeah. I was so bored by this challenge.
Oh, yeah, it's like they took the Path of Temptation and made it dull.
Yeah.
I love a Path of Temptation challenge. This was boring as all hell.
I was thinking too that given how much was up for grabs in this challenge, it's funny that Tuska earns the 3 Jokers and then uses all of the Jokers about 2 minutes later in the episode. So everything that happened in that challenge in terms of items that were up for grabs is already irrelevant.
The other interesting thing is that they don't really dwell on the fact that Tuska had more Jokers than those 3. She had at least 1 more.
Yeah, from the phone call.
Because she earned it in the bike ride.
Oh, right. Did she play the 4 Jokers or no?
She played 3.
So she's still hanging on to 1 then. But it wasn't mentioned in a confessional or anything, was it?
No. That's the thing. Because they've stretched this nonsense over 2 episodes, the 4 people who earned any Jokers in that first challenge last week, they've still got the Jokers. They just haven't mentioned it necessarily.
That's weird. They didn't mention, because you think at least somebody else would use a Joker this round.
Yeah.
And there wasn't mentioned any confessionals. So did production forget to give them their Joker?
I don't know. But Tuska was the main event, obviously, because she got 3 Jokers in this challenge. But she then plays 3 Jokers, and she still has at least 1 more because they were very vague on how many Jokers everyone got in that first challenge last week.
That's strange to have 4 Jokers and play 3 of them at once.
Yeah. The other thing worth flagging as well with this challenge is this is the suspect list question this week, which is what did the mole go for in this challenge? Was it 1 Joker, 2 Jokers, 3 Jokers, or the Tapito?
3 Jokers?
Yeah.
I think it's probably 3 Jokers. I didn't look at the distribution on it. I just thought that it was about time we had a 4-option question, and this is a nice, nasty one.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't want to do any question that would have required fully watching the second challenge when I knew we were probably not going to talk about it properly on the podcast.
I did think it interesting that they were clearly trying for the torpedo to get into play, and then only 2 people even chose to play for it.
Oh yeah, the hilarious punchline would have been, oh, Jeroen, you found a torpedo. Oh, Fonz, you found a torpedo. No one else did, so it's utterly irrelevant, but
yeah.
GG's, guys.
So close.
I also love how in the second challenge we completely skipped over most of the detail, including the sneaky minus money that I spotted that they didn't draw attention to.
There was minus money?
Well, we saw 2 bits of minus money opened in that second challenge, one of which is Anna.
Yeah.
Opening the pinata with the minus money.
Yeah.
We saw Jeroen do the same.
Yeah, juggling it.
But we also saw a second one for Jeroen that they didn't draw attention to. It was in the background of one of the shots. He was opening another one of them. So that's worth flagging. Jeroen actually, from what we saw, did the most sabotage in that second challenge and then, went home.
Yeah.
So Jeroen picks the Tapito and its 4 corresponding envelopes. They're all on the neon tables again. Fons also goes for the Tapito. Tuska goes for 3 Yokers, as does Anna. Case goes for 2, as does Rian. Babs picks 3, and Rosario picks 2.
What would you have wanted to play for in this challenge?
3? I'd go for 3 Yokers.
I would probably go for 2 or 3. Like, if I was the mole, either 3 or the torpedo, because it doesn't really make a difference to me either way. If I was a player, I think the odds of getting that envelope are so low, like it's 1 in 9, and then with at least 1, 2 or 3, whatever, that have fines in there, I don't think it's worth going for anything too big. Like, I think they got the balance wrong here.
I think it also depends who you are, because if you were in the market group or Babs, then you have to play a bit more aggressively because you know that team have probably got Yokers. Because Rik has confirmed to their faces at this point that there were advantages available on the bike ride.
Yeah.
My assumption, and I know Fuzzy got very annoyed at them just saying, oh, there's money in some of these envelopes. The maximum amount that each person could earn was €250. We know that for a fact because the maximum for the challenge was 2,000.
Yeah.
My assumption is in the 9 envelopes, originally were 5 bits of money, 4 empty envelopes. Each additional envelope that someone picks took one of the money envelopes out, but not necessarily the €250 one because we saw that Babs picks it.
Yeah.
So the 250 still had to be in there. So presumably say it changed from 5 money, including the €250, in Babs' case, because she picked 3 envelopes, it would have been the 3 envelopes that she picks plus the 3 Yoker envelope, replacing the money envelope. So if you pick the Tapito, you're guaranteed not to be able to earn any money, I think.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure, given that it was a 9 envelope potential, that it started off as 5 money, 4 empty. The empties never change. The 5 envelopes then obviously get amended with what you end up picking. If you pick the Tapito, you'll have 4 nasty envelopes, potentially an empty one, or -500, -1,000, -3,000, and your prize will be there as well, because we know it's a 1 in 9 chance.
Yeah.
I think they also said, I think Rosario said that the -3,000 was a 1 in 9 chance. Or probably 1 in 8 chance, actually, which means there was only 1 3 grand envelope. I suspect it was probably 3 empties, 2 -500s, 2 -1,000s, and then 1 -3,000. That's my suspicion on the distributions.
Yeah.
Obviously, pulling the numbers out my arse, but I was thinking about this yesterday. That's the most likely distribution, I think. So there's not a lot particularly interesting in this. Tuska said it'd be very useful right now. She was superstitious. Fon sniffs the envelope. Babs gets guided by her intuition. Rian decides to calmly observe, like the envelopes are actually going to, fucking move.
Like just prop up.
Yeah. They immediately cut to Case saying he doesn't think it matters what he picks, so he picks something crooked. Rik then meets them all and says they shouldn't be surprised that everyone went for themselves. Fons opens nothing, Rian gets nothing, Babs gets plus 250, Anna -500, Jeroen nothing, Case nothing, Tuska 3 Yokers, and Rosario -3,000 for a total of -3,250 of €2,000 for the challenge, -5,000 of 42,648 for the episode, and 4,025 of €67,641 for the season so far. And it turns out that picking your favourite colour isn't always the best idea. I did think it was very interesting that they coupled Tuska, who did pick her favourite colour of yellow, getting her 3 Yokers, and then Rosario picks his favourite colour of purple and gets the -3,000. Both 1 in 9 chance of happening.
Interesting that Rik didn't warn them that the test was coming at the end. It's just like, oh, have a nice day. And then it kind of felt like production were like, oh shit, we've got to do a test.
We haven't done one of those in a while.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it certainly looks like the first challenge of next episode is going to be also on day 10 at the Mayan Temple.
Yeah.
It looks like they're basically going to go straight from Jeroen's execution to, oh, by the way, you get another challenge here at Yashuna. So, it's now time for the test. 20 questions about the identity and actions of the mole. Whoever knows these goes home except for the mole who can never go home. Fons, Tuska, Rosario, and Case all have Yokers to play. Not that we know how many there are. Tuska says she knows she isn't the only one with an advantage. Fons has at least 2 Yokers, Rosario has at least 1, and Case has at least 1. She plays her 3. She's not going out without using them. And she's spreading over Rosario, Fons, Jeroen, and Rian, and is letting Anna go. Anna says they were often in small teams or alone in previous assignments, so she's betting on Fons, Tuska, and Rosario. This is Bab's second test, not fourth. It would be a great shame if she went home now. She's playing it safer and spreading on a maximum of 4 people here. Rosario plays his Yoker. Babs is in a strong position because she knows who it isn't, thanks to Jip and Justin. Fons plays a Yoker. If all 4 with Yokers play theirs, half the group has an advantage. Anna is his main suspect, then Rian and Tuska. Rian is often in the background, which is crazy because she's an actress and shows her theatrical side outside of assignments. Rian thinks she's going home, but she thought that for 5 episodes now, as have we. Rosario is very smart. He says things to manipulate the group. Case looks relaxed, and that's why she's suspicious of him. Kay says Babs is a difficult case because she returned. She told him she wasn't entirely truthful with the group, and he plays his Yoker. And Jeroen says, where you look is what you see. Everyone is weird in their own way. Everyone is suspicious, and everyone is fanatical.
There's a lot of people still spreading on a lot of people this week.
Yeah, I mean, we're going down to 2 this week. Spoilers. I'm bored of us having 3, even though, 7 people left is still in the 3 threshold. We're doing 2 this week.
For Rian to go home, though, she would have to physically go somewhere. So maybe that's why she hasn't gone home yet.
Yeah.
Rian, we still haven't arranged your transport to the execution van, so you're going to have to stay another week, I'm afraid, my love.
Well, they didn't even get a van this week. Jeroen just had to walk off.
Well, to be fair, it is in the middle of nowhere. He probably travelled back with the production once they'd finished the next challenge.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe he'll be in a box for next challenge then. He can't go anywhere anyway.
Yeah, I mean, with the caveat that obviously I don't enjoy people coming back and having an inherent advantage. Bring back your own, please.
Yeah.
Words I never thought I'd be saying on this podcast 5 weeks ago, but bring back Jeroen.
Yeah. We need a WIDM Jeroen-assance.
Yeah, exactly. He's the Jeroen who should have been cast for Renaissance. Imagine him as a mole. It'd be amazing. So Rik says that people have become wiser and some people even came back. Yokers have entered the game through the market and through the temple complex. Babs, Rosario, and Anna all get green screens before our fallen hero, Jeroen, gets the red and is sent home.
He gone.
He gone!
Mm.
And it's a real shame that it wasn't Babs, because I had so many Groundhog Day themed jokes prepared for if she went home. So many. Such a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Happy Groundhog Day to Daniel Peake, by the way.
Yeah, he does celebrate it, we think.
Yeah.
Logan won't be aware of what that's a reference to, which is even better.
Just another thing I don't know about this week.
Yeah, when Dan did his Quizzy Bingo, one of the questions that he wrote was question number 9, which film starring Bill Murray is about a guy reliving a day over and over again? And it became a recurring joke, mainly spurred on by me, I'll be honest, to ask Dan later on to repeat question number 9 over and over again. And I managed to get him so many times with this. To the point where every single Groundhog Day, he gets a tweet from my account. Arguably, I did forget to schedule it this year. But every single year, I tweet him saying, Happy Groundhog Day, Daniel Peake. And I usually get some sort of response just going, you're a dick. But yeah, it's one of my favourite little fun jokes that Dan just celebrates Groundhog Day. We can't help it.
You know what's interesting about the executions this season? Because we didn't have one last week, and then Justin got his red screen first the week before, we're 5 episodes in and Fon still hasn't seen his screen all season.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because I think the last time that happened, it was an actual clue that the mole never needed to see the screen.
Yeah. Fons hasn't seen his screen, and then I think like 2 or 3 other people haven't seen one since week 1. The people who saw the screen this week were basically the same people who saw it in week 2.
I mean, you did message me on Sunday just going, I've seen the result for WIDM and sob.
Yeah.
Or Scream it was, wasn't it? Scream. And I'm like, oh no, it's probably going to be Anna then. We're going to be absolutely fucked on the suspicions. And I'm going to be fucked on the pool. And I'm going to get Babs. And then Anna was the third person to get her name typed in. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go. The music's building. Oh Christ, I'm going to have a horrible episode of Sonda's going, hi, you've got Babs now. And then she got a green screen. I'm like, oh, thank God. And then Jeroen was the next one typed in. I'm like, oh no, not the comic relief of the season.
Yeah, the funny thing is, that when I sent that text message to you, I wasn't even talking about the elimination. I just, saw that they'd lost $5,000.
Ah, I just assumed that it was about the execution, which is even funnier.
I mean, equally valid.
Yeah. So he gets his highlight reel, which is running and shouting at a volleyball. And he says it's an adventure and a gift, even with the red screen. Gone too soon.
Yeah. If Rick was like, what were you thinking?
I also think it's fair to say at this point that he is the best Vidum Jeroen we've seen.
Yes.
That bar was a very, very, very low bar.
I know I've said this before. One of my favourite moments of doing Historians was the moment when you realised just why I dislike Jeroen, just because he's just so boring. It's like, oh yeah, I was wondering going into the season why you had such a hate boner for Jeroen, and I'm like, yeah, he just made no sense as a returnee.
Yeah.
But he was Elvis.
It was a season with 10 people, and he was the 10th most logical choice.
So next time, Case describes the Mayan alphabet unclearly. Rosario and Babs earn €500, and dancers get removed from the dance floor while carrying tequila.
Yeah. I can't wait for an exciting mathematics challenge.
People doing maths is always interesting, I've said it before. So with Jeroen leaving, that brings Logan down to just one person in his team, so he gets some reinforcements in the form of Babs, who's definitely going to be the mole.
So I've got one person in my team.
Yeah. I said this to Bindles earlier. I don't know how, 5 weeks in, you've ended up probably being the first person out in this pool. We all thought that Michelle was going to be out, like, probably by last week, let's be honest. And yet, somehow she's the only one with 3 people still left. So my team is still Anna and Tuska, and Michelle's is Rosario, Case, and Rian. There are 2 weeks potentially left to use switches. I suggest you try and steal off Michelle, please, Saunders. On first suspicions, only one person, which is David, lost his first suspicion with Jeroen going. Only one person, which was Libai, lost number 9 in the form of Jeroen. With the reintroduction of Babs, everyone's score jumps up, but with a minimum of 28 points. The lowest is currently Jason with a score of 35. In last place are 3 people, which is Julian, David V, and our very own Logan Saunders on 45 points. The Dutch suspicions are at the moment, as of the time of recording, Case with 24%, Anna on 20, Fons on 18, Rian on 16, Rosario on 13, Tuska on 8, and Babs on 1%. Final 2 questions. Who do we suspect and who's going home?
So my order of suspicions: Anna, Fons, Rian, Case, Tuska, Rosario, but I think he might go up higher after, as of next week, if he's still in. Then I had Jeroen, and then, of course, Babs in dead last. And maybe Case will go home next week.
Anna, Fons, Tuska, Rian, Rosario, Case, Babs. I think it's Babs next week. I hope it's Babs next week, and then we can just get over this.
Yeah. Do you think if Babs goes home before the finale, that they'll try and find a way to make it final 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll probably do a double elimination if she were to be eliminated.
Yeah, because we don't see one in the preview, which suggests there isn't one next week. But if they don't do one next week, then it's potentially going to go down from 6 to 4.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
They've done it before.
They have done it before, but they did it on Renaissance and then immediately did one challenge and then executed another person. Lest we forget. So my top 2 suspects at the moment are Anna and Tuska, and I'm actually leaning more towards Tuska at the moment, with the exception of the suspect list, which I am still putting Anna first, obviously, to try and get a clean sweep. And it's because of something that actually came up in a discussion on Discord last week about the puzzle challenge, in that the optimum way to solve a Rubik's Cube is to get a T-shape on all the faces. And I feel like, given she loves Rubik's Cubes, as we saw last week, if Tuska is the mole, then we are definitely going to see her hold up a Rubik's Cube in the shape of a T to the camera as one of the hints. She's also just been inherently suspicious. I am still gunning for Anna on the suspect list, and as it happens on the bonus question this week, both Anna and Tuska did 3 Yokers, so it makes my life easier. But yeah, I'm sort of leaning more towards Tuska this week than Anna.
Yeah.
Just to really screw up Fuzzy's predictions. I feel like it's got to be one of Michelle's team next week, seriously, at this point. If it's not Babs or one of Michelle's team, then something is seriously wrong with the boot order this season. Preferably Rosario, just because I want to shoot down any predictions of him being the mole and him being a really deathly boring mole. My order after Anna and Tuska is Rosario, Rian, Case, Fons, and Babs, but it's set dressing at this point, let's be honest.
Yeah. Even if it is Rosario, he's still a better mold than last season.
Yeah, he's a better mole than last season, but it's just so boringly predictable to have another young male mole. Just give us some variety on this show, please. Anything else you want to say?
No.
Good. Right answer. In that case, thank you for listening to our Vies to Mole 2024 recap. We'll be back next week to continue the hunt for another new mole in Mexico. Don't forget you can contact us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, where we are RTV Warriors, or you can email us and contact at rtvwarriors.com. Logan's on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Luxpawaki. Bindles is a Grim Recapper, and I'm Jay Harmstone. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/rtvwarriors. Thank you as always to Marika for the subtitles, and we will see you next week.
Peace out and just chill till the next to flavoring.
Shred, 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 Rosario!
No, don't start playing it. Fuck off. Welcome back to the 5th episode of Vies to Mole 2024 recaps from Reality TV Warriors. Little Groundhog Day joke for you.